Welcome back to the podcast. My name is Ari. Today we have a special episode, special guest, Rachel Sussman. How are you doing today, Rachel?
I'm doing good, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. The weather's pretty bad, but we can always find things to be grateful for on today's like today.
Yeah.
So I just want to get into it and just ask, how did your mental health journey start? Where did it start?
I think most of it can be credited to my competitive dance experience. I mainly struggle with anxiety and a lot of body image issues, and I can probably blame dance for both of them. I got very lucky in terms of the dance studio that I went to. Most of my body image issues were sort of brought on by myself, but I can definitely blame dance for causing them.
Yeah, so how long were you dancing for and at what age did you start?
So I started when I was 3 and I started competing when I was 10. And I competed right up until I graduated high school when I was 18. So I don't compete anymore. I still practice dance occasionally because my stepmom owns a dance studio. So every once in a while, I will go to her studio. I'll choreograph a bit for myself, sometimes for other people. Sometimes I'll still attend conventions with them, but I'm definitely not dancing nearly as much as I used to.
Do you think that these mental health issues stopped you from pursuing something that was like once your passion or like kind of dimmed your desire for doing dance?
Yeah, I think that could have been a part of it. I think I just got really burnt out towards the end of my senior year with the whole anxiety thing going on. I think part of it was just like I had some physical health issues that sort of stopped me from dancing too. Like I have a lot of chronic pain problems. One of them recently got corrected, which I'm grateful for. But I I don't know if dance was completely responsible for that. It could have just been the way that I was born with, I guess I'm prone to tendon injuries, but yeah, I guess dance definitely brought me a lot of bad, but it also brought me a lot of good too.
Yeah. So like you started like very young, but you definitely didn't like see these like mental health issues start until like a certain age. Do you remember like around when?
I remember when the anxiety started. I was probably around 14 years old, and I my anxiety is very specific. It usually revolves around time. So when I first joined the dance team, like obviously I just show up at a certain time every day or else you'd be considered late. So I guess in my first couple of years on the dance team, I just sort of disregarded that and showed up like not whenever I want, but like if I was late, it wasn't that big of a deal. But then when I was 14, they started to like really start like letting us know like if you're late any like more than maybe 3 times per year, there will be consequences. And like I didn't know what those consequences were, but at that point I was like, oh no, like I should actually start showing up on time. And in my mind, for some reason, on time meant 15 minutes early. So, and I was 14, I didn't have my license then. So I would always have my mom drive me, and she'd always get so annoyed by me being like, I need to be there at this time. And she's like, no, you don't. You need to be there at this time. And I'm like, no, mom, I can't be late, even though I wasn't late. Because in my mind, anything later than 15 minutes early was late. I remember one very specific incident when I was 15, and my dance teacher, we had a dance competition, and we're told that you have to show up to dance competitions an hour and a half before the time that you're scheduled to go on because dance competitions very frequently run ahead of time. So just in case they were running ahead of time, they want you to be there and they want you to be ready. And it was the time that I was supposed to be there. It was an hour and a half before my first scheduled call time. And the person who was driving me, she's like, all right, I'm going to get in the shower. And I'm like, we have to be there now. Like, if we leave now, we're already going to be late, but you're going to shower. So I just remember being so stressed out that day. I got to the competition and I broke down immediately. And all of my dance teammates, they all had to reassure me. They're like, we're fine. We're fine. Like, they're running on schedule. Like, just throw on the lipstick that we all share because that's what you do when you're on a dance team. You share everything and get stretched as fast as you can. Like, we still have plenty of time, but like, obviously, we need to run the dance. So I need to prepare as fast as possible. And yeah, everything worked out okay. But I just remember that day, I was so stressed out.
Yeah, that's honestly very interesting because I could share like something similar that I used to play soccer, like that was my thing. And then I remember like one time, like we were like 30 minutes late to a game, like we like maybe misread the email wrong or something. And then like after that, I was like so like I don't know, like sad or like ashamed of this. And I don't know if like this is what I'm gonna ask you next. I've had like dreams about like me going to like a soccer game and like being late. Like, have you ever had like dreams
I
about
still have those dreams. I'm pretty sure I had one like last month that I was late for dance. And I'm like, why am I dreaming about this? I graduated 3 years ago.
that's very funny because I just started a dream journal recently and like have one of those dreams and like I've started to like kind of get to the core of what it is. And I think a big thing is that like I'm always like in a hurry, like trying to get from place to place. And like I kind of realize now that like it doesn't matter. Like it's not because it's something that when you're young you think is like the end of the world, like I'm gonna be late. And then I've realized that it's just not as big of a deal as I thought it was. So that's
Yeah.
honestly that's very cool that you had a similar dream like that.
Yeah, I have no, I have those. I don't want to say all the time, but I have them often enough that it's like funny for me that I'm like, I don't know why I'm still having these dreams when I don't dance competitively anymore.
Yeah. Do you think you have any like guess why, or it's still just kind of like a mystery?
I don't know. I just think like maybe if I'm stressed out about something else that's going on in my life, then I'll have one of those dreams too. And like I have dreams like that I'm doing one of my old dances that I had done a couple years like in the past, but I don't remember the choreography because it's been a couple years. So they're like, "Oh, you're going to go on stage and you're going to do your contemporary dance from when you were 17." And I'm like, "I remember bits and pieces, but I do not remember this whole dance." So I'm just thrown on stage with this group of people who expects me to know the dance and I just don't. And I
Yeah.
think those definitely correlate with like if there's other things going on in my actual life that's making me anxious. Like maybe I have a test coming up, or maybe I have an interview for a job or something. I don't know.
Yeah. So were there any other like big pressure points, pain points other than like time stress?
Not brought on by my teachers. I definitely think that I brought on the whole body image thing by myself because when you're in a dance studio, there are mirrors everywhere and you're just staring at yourself 24/7 and comparing yourself to other people, whether you realize you're doing it or not. And I was always fairly small, like in terms of height and in terms of like weight. I was always really skinny compared to everybody else on my team. And I remember one year when I was 16, I was the oldest on my team that year, but I was also the shortest. And we were giving out costumes for our contemporary dance that year. And my costume, for whatever reason, didn't look right on me. So they decided, apparently, they had ordered a kid size just in case for me and switched my adult size costume to like a child large. And for whatever reason, that made me feel really insecure about myself because I'm like, wow, I'm the oldest person on this team and I am the size of a literal child.
Wow.
And another part of that is like the constant conditioning that you have to do. Like we have classes dedicated to like arm workouts or ab workouts and like everything in dance goes back to your core and like having a strong core. So that I understand. But I just felt so pressured to work out all the time and to just be skinny, especially because I was the smallest one. So I was always getting lifted. And I never wanted to like make the people on my dance team work hard to lift me. Like I wanted it to be easy for them so it would look better. So I guess, and like no one ever said, like, don't eat or like eat this much. I just did it to myself because I would feel bad if I was giving people a hard time by lifting me. And I think those issues definitely have continued since I graduated because like naturally when you get older, like you're going to gain a little weight because your body is going to need to adjust to your needs. And like we're in a pandemic, we've been in a pandemic for a year, like people are going to gain weight. But for whatever reason, it has really stressed me out, even though I'm not, no one's lifting me anymore. I'm not in dance. But me gaining weight with like getting older has really stressed me out. And like, I know that I'm never going to have the body that I had when I was dancing as much as I did, but it still makes me want to be back to that like under 100 pounds 16-year-old body that I once had, even though I know that's so unhealthy.
Yeah. So do you feel like, because it seems like when you're dance, you have to be in like top shape, like always exercising. Do you feel like there wasn't enough emphasis on like mindfulness, like meditation, like yoga? Because like that's obviously not talked about a lot in our society, but like having a good mental health is just as important as having good physical health, especially if you're in a performance sport like dancing.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think that we ever discussed mental health or mindfulness, or like everything was just always like go, 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 compete, 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 win, like do all this stuff for us. And I was definitely not the only one who struggled. There was another girl on my team who I can think of off the top of my head who had a really hard time. And it was definitely more than just her, too. I probably so many of us have had struggles with mental health because of dance.
Yeah. So like one of the big things, obviously, like, one of the reasons I do this podcast is to help like break the stigma around these issues. And I know for me, when I went through mental health issues, it took me so long to like speak up and ask for help because I thought that people would judge me. I thought there was a fear of people thinking I was weird or something was wrong with me. How long do you feel like you kind of waited before you told anyone because you thought that somebody would judge you?
I don't know if I waited because somebody would judge me. I think I just waited because I didn't realize it was a problem, because I was so unaware because no one ever talks about these issues. So I think my mom noticed the anxiety thing on her own. That wasn't like me being like, "Hey, I need help." But the body image thing, I feel like most people don't know, just because like I still am afraid to talk about it because I know for a fact that like being the small person I am, people are going to say to me like, "Oh, you don't need to worry about that, you're so skinny." Even though like body dysmorphia doesn't discriminate, I guess.
That's interesting. I never thought about the fact that like you could be going through things and not really knowing, because I know like I used to not really like be in touch with my emotions, but now that makes a lot more sense to me. Like if I'm blocking away my emotions, I wouldn't even know that there was something wrong to the point where I could even like articulate it and ask for help.
Yeah, I definitely went for the longest time without thinking that my anxiety was a problem. Meanwhile, like my mom is like, "I think you're really struggling. I think you need help." And I'm just over here like, "No, I'm fine." When I'm leaving for dance 30 minutes before it starts and getting there at a ridiculously early time to prevent myself from flipping out, because I know that if I leave any later than 15 minutes before, I'm going to have an anxiety attack, even though I didn't even know that that was what that was.
Yeah. So have you seen that like kind of like stress over time kind of go out into other aspects of your life, like turning school work in? Like, do you always try to have that in like super early?
Yeah, I definitely have noticed that I like to have my schoolwork in a couple of days before it's actually due. I recently had a case study for one of my classes due. We were given 2 weeks to do it, and I waited the first week because I had too much going on that week to get it started then, but I knew like I'd still have 7 days. And I remember, I think it was due on like a Sunday at 9, and I had it in Friday afternoon. And no, I think even Thursday, actually. I don't remember exactly what day it was in, but I remember it was in unnecessarily earlier than it should have been. And I do that with exams too. Like if I'm given a couple days to take an exam, like most of my friends will be like, "Oh, I'm just going to wait until the last possible second." And I'm like, "No, I need to get this done right now."
I feel the exact same way. Like it might be due to like the same thing, but like I also just like getting stuff done and not having to worry about it. And like I think I'm pretty much like the opposite of a procrastinator. But back on what we were just talking about. So what type of like help did you try to seek, or did you go to like a therapist, or did you try like what did you try?
I did go to therapy for a bit in high school, but that did not last very long just because I sort of convinced myself that I didn't have a problem. So every time my mom would be like, "I think you should go see a therapist," I would be like, "I'm fine. I don't need a therapist." And I guess like now that I'm older and have had more time to reflect, it definitely would have been something that could have helped me out.
Yeah. And did you feel like it was accessible enough. Because I know when I was going through like mental health issues, I didn't feel like therapy was accessible enough for me. Like there weren't people who were willing to meet at specific times. Like, did you feel like that was an issue at all?
I never really had a problem with that. I think the issue with me was that I wasn't willing to meet, because I think like every time that I did have a therapy appointment, like no matter which, because I think I went through like maybe three different therapists in my junior year of high school. I think like the issue was just like, I don't want to do this because I don't think I have a problem.
Interesting. Yeah, I feel like, yeah, I guess it all really comes down. So like you didn't know that something was going on, or you didn't want to like admit that something was going on. Is it
I
like a
guess
mix?
for a while, I just didn't realize that it was anxiety. And then I think I did realize that it was anxiety, but I thought that it didn't need to be fixed because it was motivating me to show up on time, when really all it was doing was just stressing me out and therefore stressing my family out, because obviously, like, they don't want to see me this way. No one does.
Yeah. I think that's another big thing that like people who are like constant worriers, like I used to be one of those people, like you kind of use it as an excuse, like, oh, like if I'm not worrying about this, then like it's not going to get done. And the more I've realized, like, no, like it's going to get done, but like I'm going to be a lot happier and just like mentally healthy because I'm not like clinging to things. Like, do you get the feeling that you like cling to things in your mind? Like you can feel like a physical like object.
Yeah, for sure. It's not something that I have a lot of control over, which is definitely kind of bad, but not kind of, it's pretty bad. But like I'll go to sleep one night thinking about everything that I have to do the next day, and I can't sleep because of it, like because my mind is just going and going.
I
So that's
actually
definitely an issue.
I actually used to like the exact same thing. I can share something that I've done that's really helped me. It's basically like before I go to bed that night, I write down pretty much everything I have to do the next day. So now that I know that like I don't have to remember it because I have it on a piece of paper like right next to my bed. So that's something that I'd probably recommend trying just because like I know how much that's helped me kind of like relax before I go to bed. I used to not be able to do that at all.
Yeah, I'm definitely a big planner. I love just writing things down and like knowing exactly what I have to do, but I just never follow through with it, I guess.
So what are some of your like what's like your mental health care routine, self-care, self-love routine every day? Are there specific things that you do?
There's nothing that I do like every single day. I do recognize the importance of self-care, and I don't this is going to sound like I do not take care of myself, but I guess like I do it when I have the time, because I hardly ever have the time. But I keep a journal right next to my bed, so it reminds me like every night before bed, like I'll, or like most nights, because I can't, like I have a chronic wrist condition that's still not fully healed yet, so my wrist like can't handle writing every night. So I'll write most nights about like what's going on in my life, just to, like sort of get that out there, especially if it's something that's like stressing me out. It just feels good to have an outlet so I can like release it somewhere, especially if like I don't want to talk to anybody about it, because like there are some things that I don't feel the need to share. Like I want to keep it to myself. But I feel like most of my self-care goes towards like hygiene and stuff. So like doing like face masks, pore strips, stuff like that. Like I do that. I have a routine for that, but I don't do like the face mask kind of stuff every single day, because I've learned the hard way that that dries out my skin a lot. I guess I have my piano behind me. So I've been playing a lot more piano lately just because I've been super stressed out, and that's been a great way for me to just unleash that stress. And when I really need it, and when my roommates aren't home, because I feel like this could really annoy them, I move our coffee table out of the way and I'll choreograph a dance in our living room.
That's awesome. I definitely noticed that art is a great way just like for self-care, mental health, self-expression because like in my experience, I was always just bottling up my emotions and like you keep pushing them down thinking that they're going to go away and that doesn't get them to go away. The way that you get them to go away is by doing something creative with them. And I love that you said journaling also because journaling was what changed my life. I journaled for like 15 minutes a day and that's how I really started to like come in touch with my emotions and just in tune with everything. And that's awesome to hear that you do that. Obviously, you have some restrictions, which are a little unfortunate, Have you ever considered, I don't know if it's like better or worse for you, like typing? Does it still
Yeah,
help?
typing is better for me, but I've tried it. It just doesn't feel the same.
Yeah, I agree because there's something like when you're writing pen on paper, it definitely has like a different like emotional reaction in reprogramming your mind. But it could be like something to think about, maybe like because I know some people, I've heard some people do like type journal, but I've never like gotten too big into it.
Yeah, something about like typing what goes on every day in your life, like it just makes it feel like a homework assignment to me, I guess. So
Yeah,
like there was one time where I did have a dream journal actually, but I would type everything out like in a Google Doc and I just couldn't stick with it because it just felt like I had to complete a homework assignment.
I feel that. I feel so. Have you ever tried like meditating? Like that's something that I'll always just like talk about. What's your
Yeah,
experience
I
with that?
have. I definitely do not stick to it as much as I should because I know that when I do it, I feel really good about myself and I always like come out of a meditative state just feeling a lot more at peace with myself and everything that's going on in my life. And I recently got a Fitbit and my Fitbit likes to remind me, it's like, remember to practice your daily mindfulness sessions. And there are some days where I'm just straight up like, I don't have the time. Like, I can't be mindful right now. I have so much to do. So I know like I should really make time for it. Like, if it's something that I'm really passionate about, I have to make the time.
Yeah, that's actually very interesting that you brought that up because I actually wrote a poem about this a while ago. It's called Find the Time. It's basically like if something or someone is very important to you, like you'll find the time for them in your busy schedule. And I know for me, like meditating is like one of the things. So like I meditate for at least 20 to 30 minutes in the morning, like pretty much like right when I wake up. And I've just noticed how that's made like change my entire day. And I also notice how I feel more productive because I just feel like a lot of the BS that's in my mind is just gone. So, but obviously, I didn't start doing 20 minutes a day. I started doing like 3 minutes a day because it's so hard at first. And I know how hard it is to kind of stick to that. But like, would you say that you have like 2 minutes a day in the morning
Yeah,
to meditate?
yeah, definitely 2 to 5 minutes each day. I usually do it at night, like right before I go to sleep, just because that's when I am thinking of it. When I wake up in the morning, I'm just sort of thinking of like, okay, I need my tea with caffeine so I can wake up and I need to like do all this stuff today. So I guess like when it pops into my head, like, oh, I should like meditate, it's usually right before I'm about to go to sleep.
Yeah. I sometimes meditate before sleep, but not as consistently as in the morning. And like I've just noticed like something to like share with people because I nobody ever really shared this with me. Obviously, one thing is just like the consistency, but like when I've gotten to a point where I've meditated for like 20 minutes in a row, like I legitimately like every time like I'm like crying like tears of joy. Like I've never been like so happy and like that's just like an experience I just want everybody to feel and understand because there are just so many people that can't like sit there for 20 minutes. And I just know that that's like a goal that I always had to build up to. So I definitely just want to share that with you just to like know that you're like building up to something that's like amazing.
Mhm. Yeah, I definitely can make the time. I just often forget just because I have so many other things going on.
Yeah. So like what are like the other things in your life that you feel are like kind of conflicting with like your time for self-care, like mental health?
Definitely schoolwork is one of them. I feel like that's very much a universal thing. And I do like a lot of online volunteering with 7 cups of tea. So like just ironically making sure that other people are okay mentally doesn't give me a lot of time to make sure that I'm okay mentally.
I feel that 100%. Everything that you just said, and like I know, like in the meeting last Wednesday, I was just like ranting about how school makes people so stressed out, and like I genuinely believe that at least 90 to 95% of people's mental health issues, especially college and younger, comes from school. And like,
For
would you
sure.
say what recommendations would you have for like the school system to ensure that kids don't get so stressed out over nothing? Because that's like such a huge issue.
I definitely think that just people just need to talk about mental health issues and anxiety and depression, you name it, whatever struggle anybody is having, people need to be less afraid, I guess, to admit that they're having a problem because there's just such a stigma associated with like saying that you're struggling, everyone thinks that you're weak. But when you admit that you have a problem, you're taking the first step towards becoming the best version of yourself that you can be. And I just think that like so many schools, like they don't talk about these, like they acknowledge that like, yeah, some students are struggling mentally and like we have these resources in place, but we don't talk about them enough. And I guess like what UMass is doing, like sending out those well-being Wednesday emails, like, yeah, that's a step in the right direction. But I think especially with the pandemic and them taking away our spring break and our long weekends, they need to be doing more to compensate for the fact that there are no breaks this semester. Because I used the last Wellness Wednesday to check up on work. I don't know about, or to catch up on work. I don't know about what you did. I was too busy to take a break for a day.
Yeah, it's funny because like I don't have classes on Wednesdays, so like it's just like another normal day for me. But I think that one thing is that the schools need to be like more like aware of how reality works. And if they don't have spring breaks and they're giving kids days off during Wednesdays, most I'd say probably the majority of college students are just going to get drunk. They're not applying, like they're not meditating because
Yeah.
taught them how to meditate. Nobody taught them about emotional intelligence, and they're not really realistic about what people are using these days for. And another thing that I just wanted to say is that, do you feel like you would have benefited from like taking an emotional intelligence class in like middle school, probably when all
Totally.
these issues, and like that's the point I want to make, is that why are we not being taught emotional intelligence in middle school? I think maybe elementary school, but like middle school is when all these mental health issues start, and a lot of them have to do with social media. And do you feel like social media played like any role in like basically like your mental health journey? Like, do you go on social media a lot?
For sure. I definitely am aware of how much I use social media. There was a time where I deactivated my Instagram for 2 weeks and it felt amazing. But of course, FOMO just gets me every time and I always have to end up coming back. But I definitely think that like being on social media, being on Instagram has done a lot of harm to my body image issues. I definitely think that that's a big contributing factor. And part of me, well, not part of me, all of me knows that I should get off social media, but at the same time, I don't want to.
I think definitely like Instagram specifically is a terrible place for girls to be on, especially with like body issues. It is just so not even unrealistic, but it's just so fake. And that's one of the reasons why I don't really use social media as much as I did before. It's kind of like, what do I care about people's fake lives? Like I want to like have conversations with people and like talk about like their real lives and like things that matter, you know?
Yeah, like there have been times where I've scrolled through my own Instagram and I'm like, this isn't me. Like, this is how other people see me, but like, this isn't me. This isn't my life. So I guess not too long ago, this is kind of pathetic. I watched the new Grey's Anatomy episode and they killed off a major character. So I was crying about it and I took a picture of myself and I sent it to my friend who had yet to watch the episode. And I got the urge to post it on my Instagram because I was like, this is me. This is who I am, crying over the death of a fictional character. And I like, of course, because I can't, just post a picture of me crying because unwritten social media rules, like I posted along with like some other pictures. And I was like, yeah, me being happy about the weather finally being nice again versus me crying over the death of a fictional character. And my friends loved it. They thought it was hilarious because like I was finally showing like this is my true authentic self. And it just made me so much happier and so much more relieved that I can finally, I guess, relax a bit and show a version of myself that, like, this is how I am 98% of the time. I'm not the person that people who follow my Instagram think I am. I'm not that person.
That's awesome. I like that. I personally don't watch the TV show, but I just love like people being authentic and like showing their true self. Like, what was it like for you that 2 weeks where you weren't on Instagram?
Honestly, I wish I could say I remember a lot of details from that week, but I really don't. It was definitely, it was definitely over the summer. And the first few days felt like I was missing something. Like I just make social media and like checking my Instagram a huge part of my daily routine. Like it's one of the first things I do when I wake up in the morning, which is kind of sad. But I just remember feeling like there was a part of my day that was missing. And then I just sort of forgot about it and like put it out of my mind. And I don't remember what made me decide to get back on Instagram. I think it might have been an accident, honestly, because like I have like, because I'm a peer advisor for my major, like I have control over the Instagram account for my major. So I think like I had logged on to check my major's Instagram account and like accidentally switched to my main Instagram, which in turn reactivated it. And I was like, oh, well, we're back now. So I definitely would have gone longer had I not accidentally reactivated my Instagram. But I just remember I want to say I was less stressed during those 2 weeks, but I don't remember for sure, and I really wish I did.
Have you ever seen the documentary The Social Dilemma on Netflix?
I have heard of it and I definitely want to watch it, but I just keep forgetting about it.
I would highly recommend it. So I watched it in like maybe September of 2020, and
Mhm.
like I already knew most of the stuff there. Like I heard this guy speak who was actually in the movie. He went to UMass and like on a book tour, and he was like one of the early investors in Facebook, and his book was called Zucked, like waking up to the Facebook catastrophe. And like that was like sophomore year, so like I already known all this stuff, and I was like, damn, like this is all so messed up. And then when I saw the documentary, it kind of like put it into like right in your face, and like visual. Like one of the things they have, it's not really like spoilers because like it's a documentary. Like
Yeah.
they show like this voodoo doll, and basically like they can make you do anything that they want you to do by sending you like certain notifications and likes and all this stuff. And immediately when I watched this documentary, I deleted all my social media. I went 4 months without it, so until the beginning of this year, and it was just amazing. I would recommend it to anybody. It was so awesome. But the only reason I decided to get back on is because like for my business, like for like spreading my message and everything, like I need to be posting on social media. But when I got back, I wanted to be like being conscious of my, you know what I mean, being conscious of my use and having like a strategy and not just like mindlessly scrolling like I used to. So now it's mostly me just like posting. But I've also noticed that even like the posting is just like draining. Like you're worried about what other people are thinking of you and all the hate and toxicity that comes with that. So I would definitely just say I'd recommend to watch that documentary sometime. I think
Yeah.
it's definitely messed up, but like would you rather be aware of like the stuff that's going behind the scenes, or like ignorance is bliss if some people believe in that?
Yeah, I'm definitely very much in my ignorance is bliss bubble right now. And there have been so many times where I'm like, I'm this close to getting off Instagram, I'm this close to getting off Snapchat, but I haven't followed through. And yeah, there was definitely a point where I was worried about like, how are people going to perceive the real me when I posted that picture of me crying on my Instagram? But I don't know, I guess I just had nothing to worry about.
Yeah.
I
What?
just feel like it's such a shame that, like, in order to have a brand and to spread your message, you need to be on social media.
Yeah, I feel that, but like also a big part of it is like I kind of see it as like having my own like TV channel, or like having my own like, and I get that for free. It's not like I have to pay for that. And I guess the only this is a great analogy that I've used to like compare social media. Like social media is the new Vegas. It's the new casino. You're not playing for money. You're playing for people's attention, which is honestly probably more addictive than money. And you're not putting in like coins to the slot machine. You're putting in your own time and your own attention. So now we have millions of like 13-year-olds on TikTok putting in their time, putting in their attention because they want to hit the jackpot. They want to be famous, viral. I actually noticed that you had like some like really viral posts on TikTok. What was that like?
That, oh my God. I guess out of everything that I post on TikTok, like I mostly go for comedy posts just because I don't see myself as the person learning a TikTok dance and like wearing no clothes for views from creepy older guys. But I just remember the first time it happened because it's happened twice. Um I was sort of like, why? Like, why this one out of all the ones that I've made? It's not that funny. It's literally just me. I don't even remember everything that happened in it, but I remember like putting my phone down for a while and like going to the beach with my friend that day. And suddenly, like, I check my phone for the first time in a couple hours and my notifications are just blowing up. And my friends are texting me. They're like, Rachel, why are you getting hype? Like, why are you getting clout? And I'm like, I don't know. I literally could not tell you. But after the first one happened, it felt like I just suddenly felt this huge amount of pressure to just perform for this new audience that I had suddenly gained. And then I had another one go even more viral than the first one. And that one went viral in other countries. It went viral in Europe and like France, Germany, like all these countries that speak these languages that I don't understand are commenting on this video in languages that I don't understand. And I'm like, and like all these people are deciding to follow me. And I'm like, what did I do? Like, I don't know what to do. So like now I just feel like there's so much pressure with like having to deliver something that's like not going to let people down, I guess. And I hate that I feel that every time I post something, but I can't escape it now unless I were to completely delete my account, which like I've contemplated doing that before, but I cannot bring myself to do it.
Nah, don't delete it. I would say one thing is that like what I've noticed from me and like my posts obviously haven't gone like super viral like that, but like if you're like being authentic and you're just like being your true self and you're not like putting on some like persona or some costume or some mask, the people are following you because they like your authenticity. I'm not sure exactly what the videos were that you what were the videos that went viral? What were they of?
I think the first one was definitely I definitely went viral on Jewish TikTok because the first one was like I had a mask on my face and then I took it off and I put it on my head as a yarmulke and I was like Shabbat Shalom everyone. And for some reason that went viral. And then the second one was me making fun of the way that French people say numbers because I just remember taking French in high school and like my grade was like that line of like people who were either born in 99 or you're born in 2000. And the people who were born in 2000 in my French class got off so easy because like we'd be talking about our birthdays and they'd be like, oh, what year were you born? And they'd be like, oh, 2000. Meanwhile, I'm over here born in 99, having to recite a novella every single time I have to say what year I'm born in. Like, I'm like, wait a second, I need to like take a deep breath and then like 1999. And I feel like I need to like take a second afterwards because I've just said so many things. Meanwhile, the 2000s babies are just like, oh, Daniel, like, it's fine. But part of going viral, especially on Jewish TikTok, is that there's just so much anti-Semitism on TikTok. And like I got comments that were like, someone commented, I remember saying something like, TikTok has figured out my hatred of the blacks and the Jews and is punishing me. And I'm like, really tempted to respond just by saying like, well, just by commenting on this video, you're going to like boost your amount of Jewish TikToks that you're seeing. So basically you're just screwing yourself over by now by interacting with this. But I didn't want to feed the trolls. And I got so many comments on that video saying free Palestine too. And I'm like, yeah, it's me. I'm the one who has all the control over what's going on in Israel with Palestine right now. Like it's a 21-year-old girl from Massachusetts. Like, yeah, sure.
I was actually just about to ask that. I'm really glad you brought that up. So how many like you probably don't know the exact number, but how many comments would you say you got on like one of the viral videos in total? Probably the Jewish one. That's a good example.
The Jewish one got, I want to say like maybe 300, 400. I know that the French one, that one got like at least 1,000.
And what percentage would you estimate were like total hate comments?
Not a lot of them actually. I don't think the French one did not get any hate comments. I don't think the Jewish one definitely got enough for me to notice it. Most of them weren't very creative. Most of them were just saying free Palestine, and I'm like, I have nothing to do with that. That's not. I don't have any control over that. Um, but yeah, a lot of the comments were like either people laughing about it or people tagging their friends. But I did like honestly just getting two comments that said free Palestine was enough to get me down. So I did have to filter comments on that one just to sort of prevent people from spewing BS that I have literally no control over. But I just think it's just such a shame that like you can get 100 positive comments on a TikTok, but then you get one comment that says free Palestine, and you're like, well, my day is ruined.
Yeah, because I was just about to bring that up. It's like no matter how much like positive comments somebody gives you and like, oh, they could tell you like you're beautiful and all this stuff, all it takes is one person just to like be like you're ugly, like why are you even trying? For like if you're not in the right place mentally, and where so many people are on social media, like that could not just like ruin your day, that could spiral into like ruining your week, ruining your month if you don't like understand like where they're coming from.
Yeah, I guess just like the biggest thing for the anti-Semitic comments is just like because most of them said free Palestine, I know I have no control over that. So like yeah, it just kind of sucks that this is like what people associate me with just for being Jewish is like they automatically associate me with Palestine and be like, "Oh, you're the problem. You are who we need to blame." But I just know that that's ridiculous and I have no control over that. So it doesn't get to me anymore.
Yeah, no, that's a great attitude to have. One thing that I would just like add in is that basically like going in the mindset of somebody who would leave a hate comment on somebody else's video, like I was never like I don't even comment on videos, but like I would never because I like love myself now. I didn't used to love myself. I used to hate myself. And when I hated myself, I could see how I would like want to make other people feel that bad. And anybody who's going to like take the time out of their day to leave a hate comment on your video is just hurting inside. So like I just have like compassion for these people now and just like empathy because like the amount of like pain and like suffering you must be going through to like try to lash out at somebody else, like it really just puts it all into perspective.
Yeah, I don't think I ever thought of it that way. I just thought like what are you getting out of this? Like does that make you feel good by leaving a mean comment on somebody else's video? Like do you feel better now that you've said that?
Exactly. And like I only up to this point I've only gotten one hate comment on one of my
Yeah, I
videos.
think I remember seeing that and I was like your reaction to that was so incredible.
I loved it because like when I got that hate comment, I was finally like, wow, like I kind of felt like I made it. I was like, wow, like my content is like getting to the point where like somebody could have like a negative reaction to this. And like what's crazy to me is like I'll never care if somebody has a negative reaction to it because like I mean, if you're going to have a negative reaction about somebody talking about mental health, emotional intelligence, self-love, like first of all, you need help. But second, like you're who my content is like geared towards. But like second of all, like
Yeah.
you're helping me by engaging and again like pushing it for the algorithm. So like I can only be grateful because that video had no comments on it before somebody was like, oh, like delete your account, like stop trying. Like I don't really care. Like I've gotten like tens of thousands of views, which is like crazy for me, but like I didn't think any of my content and like none of my content's even like gone viral. I didn't think any of it would get to that point because as you said, like I'm not like dancing on camera. I'm not like shaking my ass on camera for better
Yeah.
words. I'm just like talking about mental health and
Yeah,
self-love.
you literally it's like just trying to spread love and positivity and educate other people on like how they need to best take care of themselves. And like I don't see why anyone would have a problem with that.
I just think it's funny, but like
You're
obviously like
literally just proving my point.
obviously like to each their own, but I think in total and social media is just such a toxic and negative place. But I know that like me trying to escape it isn't going to help solve the problem. Like if I want to help solve the problem, I need to be putting my positive content out there because 99% of the content you're going to see is negative and that's what gets
Yeah.
rewarded. But I want to try to basically like inspire other people to try and post positive stuff and maybe we can get it to the point where TikTok isn't 95% negative. Maybe it's only 86% negative, maybe in the
Yeah,
future.
I think that's a big part of the solution is not like getting off of it, but diving head first and just trying to make a difference.
Yeah. But I'm definitely excited about like I've only been doing this for the past like couple months and I've definitely seen like the struggles and the challenges, but like they're mostly internal. They're mostly like caring too much about how many likes you get on a certain video or caring about like comments and stuff. And like once I think I got past that like last month, I was like, you know what? Like I don't really care. Like I post a video on TikTok and it gets 150 views. I'm very happy about that because I post a video on YouTube and it gets like 3 views. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, for sure. I just it's like so many people care so much about engagement. Like I remember this one girl that I don't think we were ever like close friends, but I do remember following her on Instagram, and she got maybe 7 likes on a picture, and all of her friends were commenting on the picture saying like maybe you should delete this. And I'm like, what does it matter? Like,
Have you ever posted, because I know you like you said you play piano. Have you ever posted any of you like playing on Instagram or
yeah, I have some piano videos on Instagram. I have some dance videos on Instagram. I think most of my dance and piano videos are in my highlights just because I just like part of me knows that those don't do very well, and I don't like want to post them like on my account for them to like stay. Like I'll post it as a story because I know that more people will watch my story than stick around on a post that they may or may not be interested in. So I don't know why I do that. I guess like I haven't posted a video of me like actually like playing the piano like actually on my account that wasn't a highlight since maybe freshman year of college. And I think I recently posted a dance video when I was home for winter break, and I was finally like recovering from my surgery that fixed one of my chronic problems. And I just remember feeling so good that I could finally like do something that I love without having to restrict myself in any capacity, and just being so happy and wanting to share that with the world. And it did noticeably worse than the rest of what I post. But at that point, I was just in such a good mood that I did not let that get to me.
that's awesome. Just like being like so like confident and just like loving yourself. That's really all it really is. And
Yeah.
so when you got that surgery, you said it was in December.
Yeah. December of last year.
Have you noticed any, because obviously like you feel a lot better physically, but have you noticed a change in your mental health since that surgery?
Definitely. I had that problem for 3 years since I was a senior in high school. I remember the first time I noticed it like it was yesterday. And when I tell that story, everyone always thinks like, oh, it must have been really recent then. And I was like, no, it was 3 years ago. So I just remember always being so frustrated all the time because the reason it went on for so long was because nobody knew what it was. And like we had done imaging, like we'd done x-rays, MRIs, and everything came back negative all the time. And I guess like what happened was that it needed to build up for these 3 years before anybody could really know for sure what was going on. Because when I got my second MRI, like a couple weeks before I actually ended up needing surgery, they were like, yeah, we can tell that you've had this problem for 3 years, like just by looking at the MRI, like we know. And I definitely think like it sucks that I had to go through it for as long as I did for them to finally fix it, I guess. But I'm glad that it's all behind me. And I just feel so much better now that I no longer need to restrict myself and I can do everything I love without having to worry about hurting myself.
That's awesome. So would you say like you're 100% back to where you were before?
I am still not 100% back to where I was before. I still have some degree of like loss of range of motion. I can like pretty much fully like it was this wrist, so I can pretty much fully like flex it back, like it looks about the same as the other one. I can't fully go this direction yet, but I'm working on it every day. I practice with weight bearing because they said that I need to work on weight bearing right now, so I'm doing a lot of wall push-ups, which is kind of funny. They're like, yeah, you should do wall push-ups, and I'm like, okay. But I'm doing everything that I need to do to make sure that I get the life I once had back, because 3 years without full use of your wrist and like restricting yourself because you know that you're going to be in pain if you do a certain thing, it's a long time and it really gets to you. And I just remember being at such a low point last semester because like yeah, it was the first full semester of being online, but my wrist pain just got so much worse than it ever was. And I was just so frustrated that like I couldn't get myself to like do all these basic things that would like allow me to succeed in my class. Like I stopped taking notes because I couldn't take notes. And like I got myself registered with disability services, but it was like we had maybe 2 weeks left in the semester before final exams happened. So like it was a bit too late. And like luckily my friends who were in my classes, like they shared their notes with me. My professors were all super understanding, but I just like I hated that it had to reach that point.
That's actually funny that you said like you stopped taking notes, and like I was just laughing because like I was like, yeah, I stopped taking notes also because like my classes are jokes and like but going back to, do you feel like the term like pressure makes diamonds, like do you feel like your mental health issues like have made you stronger into the person like that you are today?
I think I don't know if they've made me stronger yet, but I definitely am more aware of them now, and I'm ready to like, I guess, not let them hinder me anymore.
Yeah. Have you ever, this is completely random, but have you ever tried
Okay.
cold showers?
I have actually. I remember you mentioned that in Active Minds once. And then I remember, I think the first time that I remembered it, like I was home over break and I was like, oh, I should try this. And it just brought me to this whole new level of awareness that I actually have implemented it into my like shower routine, I guess, because like I have one of those apparently. Like at the end of like every time I shower, I'll always like turn the water as cold as it will go, and I'll use my Fitbit to time myself for 2 minutes. And I definitely want to go longer if I can, but like I'm also just impatient. I don't like standing and doing nothing, even though it's not standing and doing nothing. It's like doing something good for my mind. But yeah, I definitely think that it has helped me out.
That's awesome. Wait, so have you done that like every day?
Not every day. There are some days where I forget and I'm just like, I remember a couple minutes later, I'm like, oh wait, I should have done that. But yeah, most days definitely within the past like month or so I have done it.
And you said you do it for 2 minutes?
Yeah.
That's that's even more than, you're honestly motivating me to want to do it for more. I probably do like 30 seconds to a minute, but like just because you said that, like tomorrow I'm definitely gonna go. Like what, because I always try to describe this, and like the only way I could describe the feeling is like it's kind of like, I don't even, it's kind of like your mind has never been clearer before. Like
Yeah.
how would you describe the experience to somebody who's
It's
never done it?
like it definitely it just clears your head and allows you just like a sharper focus on just life in general. Like I just feel like this is going to sound really stupid. I just feel like when I do it, like everything is just more crisp and more clear and the colors are brighter and everything is just a much more like a better focus for me, and I like feel like I can take on the world, and it's just definitely something that I never thought would help me but really noticeably makes a difference.
I agree 100% because like I'll always tell this story, but like when I was like going through depression and anxiety, like I literally like tried so many things, and like I just remember I got to a point where like I just Google searched like how to cure depression and anxiety, and the only two things that came up were cold showers and meditation. And I was just like, well, that's stupid, but like I've tried all this stuff, so like I'm gonna try it. And like meditation is one of those things that like it's a cumulative effect. You're not gonna, it's not like a magic pill, but like a cold shower is as close as you're gonna get to like a magic pill. Like you literally cannot be sad after you get out of a cold shower. Like I think it might be like physically impossible because of like
Yeah, for
what it
sure.
does to like your brain, like the chemicals that it releases.
Yeah, like every time I get out of the shower and like I turn the water really cold, like I'm just in a really good mood, and like I'll often just be smiling to myself and like I don't even notice, and I'll look in a mirror and I'll be like, oh, look at that, I'm smiling, like I'm happy.
That's awesome. And like also like I don't know, I shower at the beginning of the day, so like I noticed that like it's one thing that I do at the beginning of the day because you're never going to be fully comfortable going into it. Like your ego isn't going to be fully comfortable. So it's one thing that like you're making yourself a little uncomfortable. So then that kind of permeates into the rest of your day. Like I'm one of those people, like I don't like reaching out to new people, but oh, I took a cold shower this morning. It couldn't be any worse than that. And I got through that and I'm still alive and I'm still smiling. So why couldn't I do that? Have you seen that happen to you as well?
I have not, but that's definitely a really good way to think of things. Like I also hate reaching out to new people. I remember panicking because I had to call someone about an internship that I wanted. And like, I guess I didn't want it enough to go out of my way to call this person, but like I got myself to do it eventually. But I never thought to like sort of compare the two experiences. Like if I can stand in freezing cold water for 2 minutes, I can do anything.
Exactly. And it also brings up another book that I've read. I don't know if you read it. It's called Make Your Bed, but it was by like a Navy SEAL officer, and it's basically talking about like you could change your entire life by implementing one habit, which is making your bed to start the day. And it goes into all this stuff, but it's really that like the little actions do matter. And there really are no such thing as small actions. Like we're the only ones who are going to judge whether an action is big or small.
Yeah, for sure. I think like I definitely did get into like making my bed every morning this semester and last semester. And I think part of maybe why I was so depressed last semester when my wrist pain got so bad was because it got so bad to the point where I could not make my bed. And
Mm.
I just remember like not being like not having a made bed really impacted my mental health because I couldn't do that simple thing that I used to do every morning. I
Yeah.
think that was definitely what got me to notice like wow, I really need to like yeah, I had gone to the doctors before multiple times in the past 3 years, but that was the first time I was like we need to fix this. Like this needs to be corrected immediately.
And then it's another thing where like you kind of notice that like your room is messy, but that's kind of just a reflection of like the mess that's inside your mind. Like if your room is clean, you're gonna have a clean mental health. But if you can't even keep your room clean, and that's also for me, like my room used to be an absolute mess. And where did that come from? Because my mind was an absolute mess. And I love just like thinking about it like that because like it's that like there's always a cause for like what the situation is that we're in. We might not always be able to tell it right now.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. I definitely think that my room is a reflection of where I'm at mentally.
Yeah. So as you can tell, like from behind me, I have a lot of books. I'm not sure if you're a big book reader, but if there are any that have really changed your life, I'd love to hear because I'm always looking for more recommendations.
I'm really not a big reader. I wish I was. I just, it all goes back to time. I don't have the time. I used to be when I was in high school, but not even in high school, honestly, probably when I was in middle school. But yeah, I have no free time anymore.
What were some of the books you read back then that got
I,
you all excited to read, if you can
I could not
remember?
even tell you.
I just know like for me, like I used to hate reading. And it's funny to say now because like all the books they made us read in school were like actually the dumbest things ever. And like the only book I could have said that like I'm glad they made us read was 1984. Because like that's just like a creepy book that like is pretty much like our future day. Have you ever read that?
Oh yeah, I was told to read that in high school too. I just remember like most of the books that they made us read were just complete jokes. Like we read this book called Ishmael, which was basically about a telepathic gorilla. And like the author just like sitting and having a telepathic conversation with this gorilla in a cage. And I think the gorilla died at the end of the book. And I was like, wow, like this did not need to happen. Like I feel like I've gained nothing from this.
Yeah, exactly. And like basically the thing is that I feel as though school and like high school and middle school kind of like dimmed my desire for reading, kind of dimmed my desire for learning in general until the point where I got to college and I was like, oh, wait, I can like buy my own books that like actually interest me. And then obviously I just bought a ton of books, but I noticed that in high school specifically, like your intelligence is judged off whether you can like read Shakespeare and understand what he's saying when like I doubt he even understood what he was saying. Like I know a lot of like poetry and people like they write it and then it could literally mean anything. Like it's just whatever came out came out. And you're trying to make me feel dumb because I can't understand what this guy who was probably high when he was writing this stuff said.
Yeah, I like there's just so many different types of intelligence that go beyond just like school smart and like stuff like that. And I just feel like I don't even know. There's just I definitely agree that my school sort of ruined reading for me. Like I remember the only like the one book that I think everybody universally enjoyed was when we were going into ninth grade in my school, and our summer reading book was Divergent. And we spent the entirety of the first month of ninth grade talking about the book, but that was mostly just the girls in my class talking about how attractive Theo James was. Which, like, yeah, I agree, but like we need to discuss like the symbolism and stuff like that. And everyone's just like, oh, Theo James. And I'm like, I don't know what to do here.
I honestly don't know who that is. Who is
He
that?
in the movies, he played what's his name? Four.
Oh,
Yeah.
I guess I haven't read the book or seen the movie, so I guess I'm a little lost on that one. But I also know that like a lot of these people who are like authors of these books are like terrible role models. Like I remember they made us read Ernest Hemingway in high school, and like I don't know if you know a lot about him, but like this guy was just like an alcoholic. Like he wrote while he was drunk. Like we're just like reading this stuff that like an alcoholic wrote while he was like depressed and like talking about the war. And
Yeah.
this is supposed to resonate with like high school kids and like a middle class like society. Like it's honestly beyond me who decides to pick these books, but like I want to be one of the people that decides who picks these books. And like we could actually, this is like one book, like if you ever heard of Napoleon Hill, like these books are literally like, or Think and Grow Rich. Have you heard of this book?
Yeah. Just like recommend something that will actually like maybe resonate with people instead of being like, if you consume a ton of alcohol, then you too can create art. Like,
It's like, I think that if Think and Grow Rich was a required reading for every single person in school, first of all, like it's a $5 book. I would even buy it, but I had nobody told me that it was like possible. But like there's more value in that one book than I got out of my entire K through 12 education, which is like crazy to think about. But like you also read the book and you're like, oh, well, that's why. Because he literally interviewed like the most successful people in the world and like figured out why they were so successful.
yeah,
Maybe
you
it's
can kind of tell when you're in English classes that no one really wants to be there. I guess the most clear memory I have of that was like in your school, did you have like the people who like supplied the books, like they wrote numbers in each book to identify like who the like which book was which and like who had each book, like who took home each book. And one year, I don't remember which book we were reading, but I just remember somebody in the book wrote the number 420-666 as the number to identify the book as. And this poor kid had to read that in front of the entire class because like we literally went around and like had to say like which book we were taking home so the school would know like if a book got damaged who was responsible for it. And this kid, like we get to him and he's like 420, and like everyone starts laughing a little bit to themselves and like the teacher doesn't really know what to do with that because like she's probably unfamiliar with the term 420 and like what its significance is. And she's like, wait, so 4-20? And he's like, no, there's more. It's 420-666. And the entire class just loses it. I was just like, wow, no one cares at my school about the English department. It's kind of sad.
no, I mean, I kind of think about it like it's sad, but like it's not sad that nobody cares. It's sad that they don't care about the students because like it wouldn't happen if they truly cared about you and like taught you. And it also has to go with it. Like there are more than two types of intelligence, like you said, but like the two big ones that we talk about are like emotional intelligence, which is EQ, and then like whatever IQ stands for, maybe intelligence quotient.
But
And
yeah,
like
that one. I can't
and
say it apparently.
yeah, but like our society thinks that like IQ is 95% and EQ is 5% when it's really that EQ is pretty much 99% and IQ is like 1%. Like because because I get good grades in school doesn't mean that I'm smart. It means that I can memorize stuff for a multiple choice test and do good at guessing the answers. And
Yeah, like
that's
you
what
know how to take a test. It doesn't
and
say anything about your intelligence itself.
I feel like that's where the root cause of at least 75% of people's stress comes from because, oh, so I just took this whole class for 2 months and learned all this information that I'm never going to get to use. But now it comes down to whether I can answer these 20 questions right. And if I get like four of them wrong, now I have like a C. Like, how does
Yeah.
that make any sense?
Yeah. Have you heard of the seven intelligences actually? Vaguely remember talking about this in AP psychology.
No, I haven't.
It's like I cannot name all seven of them, but I think I can name at least like kinetic intelligence. There's musical intelligence was one of them. Interpersonal and intrapersonal, those were two different ones. Um, and yeah, I cannot name the rest of them, but like it's basically this theory saying that there are seven different types of intelligences, and it goes beyond more than just book smart and stuff like that and your emotions. Like it goes into like the senses, like with kinetic intelligence and with musical intelligence. And I remember one time we had to take a test in my 11th grade history class on which intelligence was the strongest for us. And I just remember, I don't remember, I think a lot of people in my class had really poor musical intelligence, but my musical intelligence was through the roof for some reason. And it was really eye-opening, like how there are so many different types of smart that it just goes beyond academics. And I think that people just need to stop being so focused on academic smarts and grades, because that has goes to show, like, it causes a ton of mental health problems in students everywhere,
Yeah.
just being so hyper focused on grades and academic intelligence.
So when you were back in high school and you took like, I wish I had taken something like that in high school. That would have been awesome. Like, were you always like, because I know you were super into dance. Were you always like into like playing the piano and music, or was
Yeah,
that new?
I took piano lessons for a couple years, probably from when I was like maybe 6 to 8. And then I stopped because I got bored with it, I guess. And then when I was 13, I picked it back up again, but I taught myself instead. I didn't take lessons. I would listen to the songs that I wanted to learn, and I would pick out the notes from there and would teach myself how to play my favorite songs. Because I think that's what stopped me from doing it when I was little, is that they would give me these little like music theory books with songs that were like 30 seconds long. And it just like, I wasn't getting anything out of it, I guess. But like when I started teaching myself, I started teaching myself my favorite songs. And I was genuinely getting like some enjoyment out of it. And I think that was why my musical intelligence was so much more prevalent, I guess, than the rest of my other intelligences. And you can probably like Google 7 intelligences test and like find it yourself. I haven't thought about it in years, actually, but I want to try it again, honestly, and see if anything's changed.
That's super cool. Like, did you like could you listen to the songs and then just like figure out what notes they were without like having sheet music in front of you?
Yeah, I haven't read
Wow.
sheet music in years, probably since I stopped taking piano lessons. I don't use sheet music anymore. I don't even
That's
know if I remember how to read it.
I hope you know that like that's super impressive. Like I could never do that. That takes like a certain like type of like person to be able to do that.
I mean, like, I just get really annoyed by it most of the time because I can never turn it off, I guess. Like, when I listen to music, the first thing that I hear are like the chord progressions and what notes they're playing and what key the song is in. And that often becomes what I judge songs for, like what key they're in. And everyone always asks me, like, how do you do it? And I'm always like, I have the same thing to say to everybody. I say, how do you not do it? Because I don't know how to not listen for that stuff. And it really, it's ruined a lot of songs for me.
Wow. That's super interesting, honestly, because I'm a believer. It's not even like believer. Like I know that this is a fact, this point, and a lot of people are gonna like catch on to this as like we open up our minds to the possibilities that like there's more to see than we can see, and that like I don't know if I would call that a psychic ability, but I would call that a psychic ability. Is that everybody has these psychic abilities, but the problem is we forget about them as we grow up because we're taught to think about, intelligence and logic and all this stuff that completely defies logic. And that one thing that you have, this talent, completely defies logic, but it comes naturally to you. You don't even have to think about it, which is just like astounding. And that's how so many people are in so many different ways, but we don't encourage that like uniqueness.
Yeah, exactly. It's such a shame. I remember, I don't know, this like sort of doesn't really have anything to do with this, but I remember reading something somewhere that was like, what if we all had superpowers, but our superpowers were all like really mundane? Like, what if this person will like never forget their wallet? That's their superpower. So I don't know what that has to do with what we were just talking about.
No, it does, like psychic abilities. And
Yeah.
like I agree with that 100% to the point where like I remember writing about this also is that what do you define as a superpower? Like, I think that like kindness is a modern day superpower because not everybody is just like super kind. I think that if you're just like super kind to everybody, no matter what, like that's a superpower and nobody can stop you from being kind no matter what shitty thing they do to you. Like, that is a superpower. But we're not taught that that's strength. We're not taught that we're taught that like nice guys finish last. Where does that come from? That comes from like the things that we're taught in school, the things that we're taught in like TV and media and all that stuff.
Yeah, for sure. Like, and what's sad is that so many people just lack kindness. Like, I hate to say it, but there's just so many people out there who are just so unkind and so inconsiderate.
Exact. And like this is also a huge thing about what I talk about is that it's so simple. Like the stuff that I talk about, like mental health, emotional intelligence, self-love, it is so simple. It's so simple that you just hear me say it in one sentence. You're like, oh, like that's simple. Like, why did I even need to hear you say that? Well, the fact of the matter is that 99% of the people in our society don't do these things. So if it's so simple, why isn't everybody doing it? Well, maybe it's that people aren't taught this stuff, or maybe they don't know that they should be doing this stuff. But if it's so simple, why isn't everybody just being nice to people? Is it because they don't know how to deal with their own mental health, so they take that out on other people?
Yeah, I think this all goes back to just when, like you had mentioned, like you'd wish that everybody would have taken an emotional intelligence course in like middle school. I don't think that I ever took a course that centered around talking about mental health in high school or middle school. I don't think, like, maybe we talked about it in like health classes for a couple times, but like most like middle school and high school health classes were spent talking about STDs. Like they don't care about emotional intelligence, that like nobody's in touch with theirs.
Yeah. And the big thing is that like these schools will like tell you that like yeah we care about people's like mental health and emotional intelligence, or like you don't, because you care more about teaching me about chemistry in seventh grade when I'm going to be an accounting major when I'm in college and not going to need to learn chemistry. But one thing that I'm going to need to learn that's going to stick with me for my entire life is how I feel, and like journaling and like I think that like they should teach meditation in kindergarten. I just know how much my life would have changed. Like, what else are you doing in kindergarten? You're learning the ABCs, you're learning numbers, and like
Yeah,
learning how to breathe and like be nice to other people. Like they don't teach you that.
yeah, they should teach you how to like be nice to yourself and like treat yourself with enough kindness that you like you're in touch with, I don't know, I'm just saying things, like you're just in touch with your emotions. And I think that they need to teach that to kids at a young age, because like, yeah, like the mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell, but did I know that I had anxiety for so many years? No, I didn't. And I just also refused to admit that it was a problem because nobody ever told me that it was a problem.
I love that you brought that up. Did you see my video where I said that, or did you just use that as an example? Because like
I
that's
mean,
like a
that's my example for everything, but I did see that video.
yeah, because like I remember just like that was one of my videos that got like the most like engagement and likes, and like I understand why, because like that's something that like everybody knows like in middle school, like the mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. So irrelevant, like doesn't matter, but like we all know that for some reason because that's what they want us to know, I guess.
Yeah, like I can tell you the 8 different like class rankings and like how you classify animals, but like, can I tell you when I'm experiencing like a mental health problem? For a while, no, I could not. But now I can recognize it because it was something that I sort of had to teach myself. And it's a shame that I had to figure that out on my own, because had I not gone out of my way to figure out, like to figure that kind of stuff out on my own, who knows where I'd be right now.
I agree 100%. And it's also like I realize that like kind of like the service I provide and like the value I'm bringing, like it's something that everybody needs, but people seek it in different ways. Some people like me, I seek it in books. Some people like watch like movies or like Netflix, things like that, or listen to music for emotional intelligence. But some people just don't know that this is something that they need, and the only way you're going to seek it is if you're going through like depression and anxiety, because that's what happened with me. I didn't know I needed to learn about emotional intelligence until my entire world was flipped upside down and I had to seek it as necessity. So I want to help people get to this before they get to that dire situation. Like you don't ever need to experience any of those things if you're taught at a young age to like take care of yourself and love yourself.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I hate that people have to go through emotional trauma or mental health struggles before they realize that they need to educate themselves on being in tune with your emotions.
I'm definitely excited though, because I mean the older generation is never going to get this done, but I see a lot more people, like even like active minds, like 20 people meeting once a week to like talk about mental health. Like I never thought I would see anything like it. I think that there's going to be a huge community of these people in a very short amount of time, and those are going to be the people that change the education system. People that
For
are like
sure.
people that are like 50, because like one of the things that I think one of their arguments is like, well, it's social skills. Shouldn't their parents be teaching them that? Well, my argument is, what if their parents never learned it because they grew up and didn't learn emotional intelligence in school, and they went through their 9 to 5 every day and packed it all down and then took it out all on their kids. And
No,
their kids are going to,
absolutely. I just like it's been going to like therapy and getting help has been so stigmatized for so long. Like even maybe 10, 15 years ago, it was like, oh, I hear they went to therapy, like they need help. Versus now, it's like, yo, guess what my therapist told me I should do? Like, I just think that bringing this kind of stuff into casual conversation would destigmatize all of these things that have had such a bad reputation for so long. And for what? Like, there's nothing wrong with admitting that you need help. You're just trying to do what's best for yourself.
exactly. Would you mind just talking a little about Seven Cups? Because you were the one who introduced me to that. And like, I found that I could give a lot of people value on that. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess I discovered it back when I was 16. And what would happen with me is like I signed up to become a listener and I would be committed to it in like short durations of time. Like there would be a month where it would be like the only thing that I did. And then I would just forget about the site. And then I would come back like a year or so later and be committed to it again. And then I would forget about the site again. It just kept happening until I want to say December of 2019, when I finally decided if I get my account verified, like if I do the verified listener mock chat and maybe start to take on some leadership, then I can stay here and dedicate myself to this and do some good in the world. So, December of 2019, I got my account verified. I started applying for leadership positions. Now, my focus is mostly on listener quality by doing like the verified listener mock chats and by being a quality mentor, but I still do plenty of group support. I volunteer with the disability support chat room right now. I'm a chat room moderator there. And I also just recently became an adult teen listener, which means that the site has cleared me. Like there's a very clear division on the site between like teens and adults, which is for the safety of the teens. Like they don't want some random unvetted person who's over 18 contacting someone who's like 14 or 15 because they can't regulate that, I guess. So they have a select amount of people who have been cleared by the admins of the site to be like, yeah, over the age of 18, but also be able to listen to teens. And I just, for a while, I think part of what stopped me from coming back after I turned 18 was that even though I was on the adult side of the site, I still very much identified myself as a teenager because I was still in high school. So I would like try to take a general request and it would be like, I'm having marital problems or I'm having financial struggles. And I'm like, I have never tried to like manage a budget in my entire life, bro. Like you're on your own. Like I just don't know how to do that because I'm 18. I'm still a senior in high school. So but yeah, it's definitely I've now been involved with Seven Cups like consistently for more than a year. And it has definitely changed my life, not just like in terms of like me listening to these people, but me listening to my friends and being more in tune with myself and my own mental health.
Yeah. And I'm definitely glad that you recommended to me. Like I did it for a while, like back last year. Like I really haven't found the time for it this year, especially since I've been back on social media, kind of like doing it in a different way. But like I definitely noticed kind of like the impact that I could have. But also what frustrated me was like I want to be able to like help more and not just be like a compassionate listener. And there were just some things that I knew that I wouldn't be able to help and some people that I wouldn't be able to help. And like that frustrated me. And I guess it's just something that like obviously I have to get over, but like just like knowing that there are so many people out there that are struggling and people try to pretend like these aren't real issues because it's not something that you can see with your two eyes.
Yeah, absolutely. That's definitely been a big hurdle for me, is just like wishing that I could do more than just give these people a space to vent. But I don't know. I guess the good outweighs I don't even want to call that bad that I can't
Yeah.
do that. There's just so much good that I can do with being active on Seven Cups, whether it be involved as a quality mentor, whether it be involved as a chat room moderator for a group support room. There's just so much good that I can do.
Yeah, I think one of the big things is like you'll probably relate to this is like you do a bunch of stuff, but you always focus on like the negative. You always focus on like what you could have done or like the one thing that you think you could have done better or did wrong. And like I feel like we all just have to like give ourselves permission to like, yeah, I did that. Like I actually helped and like feel that and just have that going in to like the next day or like the next moment.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that's what I love about the site. It has something called a My Impact page. I don't know if you've ever looked at yours, but it tells you like how many positive conversations you've had, how many individual people you've connected with, how many people have said that you specifically have helped them. And it makes me feel so good knowing that I have an impact on these people's lives just by being there for them when nobody else can be.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's something that I will like forever recommend to anybody. Like if anybody's going through mental health issues and it's not like to the point where you need to go to a therapist, I would definitely check out Seven Cups. And if you're at the place where like you feel as though you're in a good mental spot where you could help people, being a listener and listening to people's problems and issues, it can really help you just like help your perspective and help just try to help other people going through like a dire situation.
Exactly. Being both a member and a listener on Seven Cups has changed so many lives.
How many? So would you say that you go on every single day, or how much time do you spend on it, like per week, say?
Yeah, well, I haven't been on very much lately just because I'm trying to prioritize my schoolwork right now, but I definitely do come online every single day, multiple times a day, just for as long as I can be. And like at this point, like I got really burnt out not too long ago and I really wanted to take some time off, but like I made a commitment to these roles that I have. So I guess I'm just more in touch with myself in terms of like when I need to take a break from this, because I like to say like I can't give my best to other people if I'm not giving my best to myself. So I need to take some time away from Seven Cups, no matter how much it hurts me to do so. And I need to take some time for myself. And once I feel fully rejuvenated, like fully recharged, I can go back and I can begin helping people again.
That's awesome. I really like how you said because it's really that you need to know your priorities. And that's again another thing that goes hand in hand with emotional intelligence that we're not taught in school that we need to have priorities. And over time, I've kind of built up my priorities. Like my top one is like authenticity. I never want to be like fake in anything that I do. I always want to be expressing my truth. And then that goes hand in hand with like self-love and having good mental health. And I'll put that over anything now. I'll put that over my schoolwork. Like if I feel like the schoolwork is not helping me, there's no reason. I used to get way too caught up in like my grades and everything. And at the point where I realized that like my grades didn't make me into the person who I am today, like me working on myself and meditating and journaling and dealing with my emotions made myself into the person who I am today. Would you say that you have any like priorities or like a list written out like in order of like importance to you?
I definitely, especially in the past year, have been so much better about prioritizing my mental health. And I guess my physical health too, with my wrist. Like I needed to prioritize before I had surgery, the minimal strength that I had. And I needed to take care of myself physically. So I'd be able to take my exams and take notes if I need to and do my homework. And I wish that more people were aware of prioritizing their mental health, because like when you try to prioritize your mental health and it doesn't work for somebody else, like especially with professors, you're like, oh, I need an extension on this assignment because I'm having a panic attack, and they're like, oh, that sucks. I just wish that more people were okay with prioritizing your mental health.
Yeah, and like that goes hand in hand with like the culture that we live in. Like our culture is like it's it's like celebrated for somebody to like stay up to like 3 a.m. to finish an assignment and get 3 hours of sleep and be like extremely sad and like just get no sleep the next day. But it's not like celebrated that, oh, like I did all I can. I'm going to get 8 hours and like go to the next day and like get whatever grade I get because, you know, our schools tell us that grades are more important than our mental health. And like this is something that I just keep coming back to. But like I realize that it's the biggest thing. Like you're literally putting a number on your self-worth. That's literally what it is. And people internalize that to the point where it's like detrimental to your mental health.
Exactly. It's such a huge issue.
Do you feel like school at all had any education on like body type issues or not really?
Not really. I feel like maybe in health class we talked about like anorexia and bulimia once or twice, but no, I don't think we ever really talked about it.
So where do you feel like you learned all the stuff that you know now about this stuff?
Honestly, I think part of it was like I feel like this is an experience that I feel like every girl in America goes through. Their mom gets them this book. It's by the American Girl Doll Company, and it's called The Care and Keeping of You. And there's a section in the book that like it basically talks about like it's given to a lot of like preteen girls who are about to go through puberty basically. So like it talks about like the physical changes you're about to experience in your body and like you're going to start your period soon and like all that stuff. But there was a section that talked about eating disorders. So I think that was when I first became aware of eating disorders and body image issues. But I think just like it's a pretty common thing for people in dance to go through like body image stuff. So, and I just remember having a lot of videos for some reason pop up in my YouTube recommended that were like my struggle with bulimia or my struggle with anorexia. And I think that was how I became aware of like people who go through these issues and like what it can do to you. But unfortunately, those weren't enough to sort of stop me, I guess. Like, I feel like a lot of my habits in terms of like eating are still fairly disordered. There are times when I'll go an entire day without eating until like maybe 4 or 5, just because like not only am I too busy to eat sometimes, which is its own problem, but I'll look at myself and I'll be unhappy with the way I look and I'll be like, oh, I ate too much yesterday, so I can't eat breakfast today or I can't eat lunch today. So there's just so much going on,
That's
I
actually
guess.
funny. It's funny you mentioned that. Like I'm actually fasting today because like I just felt like disgusting yesterday. And like I haven't like fasted in a while. I've never like fasted with like an intention, just like feel more clean and like obviously like doing it for a purpose. But I feel like that's something that's also not really talked about like in our modern health is like the benefit of fasting. I think fasting, if you're doing it like with a purpose and intention and doing it in a safe way, can really help your mental health and physical health.
Yeah, no, there are health, like physical health benefits and mental health benefits to fasting. But I feel like when I do it, it's either for religious reasons like Yom Kippur, or it's because I need to compensate for eating too much the day before, even though like your body knows what to do if you eat too much. Like it knows how to get rid of those extra, like the extra food that you've eaten. But for some reason my mind is still like, no, you have to skip lunch today because you ate too much yesterday.
Oh, yeah, I didn't understand that. So it's basically like a way of compensating. I guess I can see now where that can really like mess you up and mess like up a ton of people. Because like if you think like, oh, I have to stick to this X amount of calories and it has to be exactly like this, and oh, if I had like a little too much, then I'm gonna take that off of the next day, type of
Yeah,
thing.
I'm definitely guilty. Like I know that some people do count their calories if they're like trying to build muscle or lose a certain amount of fat in like a healthy way, but when I've done it, it's definitely not been healthy.
Yeah. So how do you like gauge your own health? Like how do you just like determine that you're healthy based on like your body image and appearance?
I mean, like part of me is like based on what I'm putting into my body, but I feel like that makes me too hyper focused on eating like way too healthy, like just taking it to an extreme and just not being able to enjoy food. Like if I there was a time where like if I ate a cookie, I'd be like, I hate myself so much for eating this cookie and enjoying this cookie. You shouldn't enjoy this. Like this is, you're gonna feel like shit the next day because you enjoyed a cookie.
Yeah. Do you, I know diet's a huge thing, at least for me, that I'm trying to change now. I honestly might do vegetarian, considering
Yeah,
it.
I went vegetarian actually, not because of like, well, like, yeah, health benefits are a plus, but like high cholesterol runs in my family. So I just wanted to get out ahead of that.
Yeah. So do you still do that? Are you still a vegetarian?
Yeah, I'm still vegetarian. I went totally vegetarian in December. So like around the same time that I had my wrist surgery. The two are not correlated though.
Hey, they they're definitely correlated. It might not be causation, but they definitely.
Well, yeah, that's it wasn't like one like, oh, I got wrist surgery, so I can't cut my steak anymore. It wasn't like that.
Yeah, I definitely love to hear like your take on that. Like what do you usually eat for protein?
I'm a big tofu fan.
Hmm.
I love tofu. I love eggs, whether they be my two favorites are like hard boiled and then like scrambled egg whites. I'm not really a big yolk fan for some reason. I've just never been able to get myself to like the taste. But I've also discovered a fair amount of like meat substitutes. Like I love this brand. It's like Smart Ground, and they make like ground beef substitutes, and they have these chicken tenders that aren't really chicken. And I live for those.
So I remember trying tofu at the beginning of last year, and like maybe I just cooked it wrong, but like I thought it was disgusting. Like, do you have any like recommendations how to like spice it up a little, or
What I
what
love
do you eat
about
it with?
tofu is like it soaks up the flavor of anything that you put it in. So like usually like I'll oftentimes scramble it into eggs. So like you get like two eggs, you scramble in some tofu. You see there's like a way for you to season tofu as if it were eggs, and I don't remember exactly how to do it. I'd have to look it up. I want to say there's like turmeric involved or turmeric. I don't know exactly how to pronounce that, but I what I'll often do with tofu is I'll like chop it up into little like chunks, and I'll dip it in cornstarch on two sides, and I saute it in canola oil, and then it gets really crispy, and you like throw a little bit of lime juice, a little bit of soy sauce over it, and it tastes fantastic. I could eat it every day for the rest of my life probably.
That sounds all right. Definitely gonna have to try that when I go
Sure.
vegetarian. Probably in the next. It's just tough for me, just like living with my parents at the moment before I move out, because like they're super against it. Like they don't want it because it takes more effort. Like that's all it is. It
Yeah.
takes a little more effort in planning. But have you seen like a direct, just like change in your mental health from stop eating meat or not really?
Not really. I feel like there's like that whole kind of joke where people think like, oh, if you're vegetarian or if you're vegan, you think you're better than everybody else because you're vegetarian. But that's not the case. It's just like what I choose to eat. Like what I choose to eat doesn't make me better or worse than anybody else.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like you definitely like I hate when people try to like say you'd be better or worse, but like a big thing for me is like I don't want to compare myself to anybody. Like I want to compare myself to my past self. So like do you think that you feel healthier than like your past self like now as a result of like eating vegetarian?
Yes and no, because I feel like I am eating healthier foods now that I'm vegetarian because I'm prioritizing more of those because I know I need to compensate for the lack of protein sources. But I also feel like part of that focus, like extreme focus on eating healthy foods, could be a result of the body dysmorphia
Interesting.
and just me being obsessed with needing to eat healthy in order to be thin.
Yeah. Do you how do I word this? I don't really believe in the whole like 3 meals a day thing. I think that's kind of like
Yeah.
marketing. And I've never really been a big breakfast person, but like everybody like told me when I was younger, like you gotta eat breakfast. Like breakfast is the most important meal of the day. I don't eat breakfast anymore ever since I started college. I pretty much just eat 2 meals a day. And I pretty much go from like kind of I would say like it's called intermittent fasting. So maybe like
Yeah.
for like from like 1 to 9 or like 12 to 8 during the day, I'll eat. Do you do anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, like the only reason I ate breakfast in high school was because my stepdad would always like make breakfast for himself before he would go for work, and he would make something for me too, just because like that's the kind of person he is. But since I got to college, I definitely stopped eating breakfast just because like I just don't really like eating that early in the morning for some reason. And if I do any kind of intermittent fasting, it's because like I have bad acid reflux. So like if I eat late at night, then it messes with my stomach while I'm sleeping. So I like to stop eating usually 3 hours before I go to bed, just because
Interesting.
that's what my doctor recommended for me.
What's acid reflux? I don't think I've heard
It's
that.
like your stomach acid comes up like into your throat
Oh,
sometimes. Like you have these like sphincters that regulate like what goes in and out of your stomach. And then sometimes the sphincters just fail. So
interesting. Hmm.
yeah.
Hey, the more you learn, I always learn just like a ton from just like talking to people and hearing their stories. I've
Yeah.
definitely just learned a ton from you. I honestly, I don't really know if I have any more questions left. Is there anything else that you'd like to discuss?
Not really. I think we've covered just about everything.
Awesome. That sounds good. I really enjoyed this episode. I hope you did too. And that'll be it for today's episode. Signing off.